I was in my late teens, Crowley's like an inspiration. He was somebody who was living a life that you wanted to live like. You wanted to be able to do what you wanted, you know, break down the taboos, break down the barriers. And there was somebody that had already done it, so they sort of become your own sort of personal guru.
We're at the Great Pyramid now. This is where Crowley and his wife came on their honeymoon. And one night they decided to spend a night inside the King's chamber. This is just for Crowley really to show off and show what a great magician he is to his wife. They must have done this on their own, him and Rose. Must have been quite an eerie thing to do. This is it. This is the King's chamber.
I wanted my wife to see what a great magician I was. We went accordingly after dinner with candles. I had with me a small notebook in which was written the preliminary invocation of the Goetia.
The Goetia is a grimoire. It's probably the closest thing to a black magic book. It's the lesser key of Solomon. It's got nothing to do with invoking angels. It's got nothing to do with anything particularly spiritual. It's purely to raise demons and nothing else. I invoke thee, the bornless one, thee that hast created the earth and the heavens, thee that hast created the light and the day.
Of the first, the burning flames have flamed in the depths of my jaws.
This must have been one hell of a honeymoon.
If you do that kind of thing, you get possessed, in a certain sense. Things get inside you and use you for their purposes.
Aleister Crowley had delved deep into black magic, but in all the rituals he had performed, he had failed to communicate with a demonic entity. He believed that this was necessary to become a supreme master of the occult who could harness the powers of darkness. The two set off to Algeria to perform Enochian magic, a dark and dangerous set of occult rituals. They walked deep into the Sahara for 2 days until they reached the point of exhaustion.
I think the reason for the desert is it's so desolate, it's so isolated, that there's nothing for your consciousness to latch onto. There are no markings, there's no change in the desert. And I think this beats your consciousness into a kind of a state of sensory deprivation. I think this is perfect for the sort of magic that Crowley was doing. This is what he wanted to do. And they really were stepping off into the unknown.
Disorientated by the effects of the desert and copious quantities of hashish and mescaline, Crowley and Neuberg embarked on the climax of the ritual, summoning Choronzon, the dweller of the abyss, seen within the occult world as the devil himself.
This particular ritual was extremely dangerous. Make no mistake, they were opening the gates of hell. The opening lines are Zazaz, Zazaz, Na Satana Zazaz. And these words are literally to open the gates of hell.
He knew, and this sounds a weird thing to say, he knew that magic works. We don't believe in it nowadays, but in point of fact, all that you're really doing is trying to persuade forces that do exist outside this world to come into this world. And to do so, you have to serve as that passage yourself to a large extent. And that's the reason the magician gets inside a circle and stays inside the circle. Now, Crowley liked playing with fire. He drew the circle around Neuberg, and he himself was outside the circle. Well, magicians don't do that. It really is dangerous. You know, people can go mad. They suddenly hear voices inside their heads that they can't get rid of. Now, Crowley, fortunately, was such a bastard that he was more or less immune.